The opinions expressed in the Brothers on Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning in to Brothers on Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers on Law right here on Go Country 105.
Good morning, everyone. This is Larry Mandel.
I'm Rob Mandel.
And we are the Brothers on Law. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, welcome to our show. We're so privileged to be on the air here in Los Angeles, beautiful Southern California, and on this wonderful country station, Go Country 105. And you know, living here in Southern California, we're also exposed to celebrities and entertainers. I mean, we're like pretty much the entertainment capital of the world. And so many of our listeners and our friends are part of the entertainment industry, all the way from like people who do sound and lighting and things like that, all the way up to directors and producers and actors and you know, one of my son's closest friend is a professional actor, and you know, we just see this every day, and I get asked a lot, you know, hey Rob, do you handle entertainment law? Will you look at this contract for me? And I say, you know, no man, I'm a litigator, I'm a trial attorney, but I can steer you to someone who does.
Right.
And we're so lucky to have with us today Reena Sehgal, who is with the law firm of Sehgal and Sailing. She's an entertainment lawyer, entertainment specialist, and one of those people that we would say, hey, I can't do it, but I know someone, I know a guy, right? I know a gal in this case. And so welcome to the show.
Welcome, Reena.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am an entertainment transactional specialist. I work in film, television, live stage, and music. And essentially I help negotiate and draft contracts for any kind of artist who's wishing to enter into the entertainment field.
That would be music, acting.
Mm-hmm. Producers, directors, even if you're below the line talent. So if you're doing you know, sound and you're working in production in any capacity, we do represent and negotiate contracts on your behalf.
And that's a big deal.
Protection.
It's a big deal in this town. And like you say, Larry, you need that protection because it's kind of a, I don't know, I say dog eat dog business, but it can be a rough business. Right?
Yeah.
It's definitely a rough business.
We were talking off the air about looking at that fine print, right?
Yes.
Because it's buried in those contracts that you gotta review.
They like to give you the smallest font possible, so that you just kind of like skim over it.
That's like buying a car.
Yeah. And so you were talking about, you know, hey, even if you're just, you know, one of the people doing the lighting or the electrical or whatever, that, you know, you before you sign on the dotted line, and you may be, you know, so anxious to get rolling in the business, but before you sign on the dotted line, maybe run it by someone like yourself, right?
Well, it's imperative because you need to make sure that you're getting the appropriate credits. We like to say in the entertainment industry, credit is currency. So it helps you facilitate all your future jobs. So you need to make sure that the fine line reads that you are getting credit in a certain area. So if you don't have that language in there that's appropriate, you're going to have a lot more difficulty. Even if, you know, napkin deals happen all the time, they shake your hand and tell you that, oh yes, we will give you this credit. But if it's not written down and they avoid doing it or avoid putting it in the actual credit roll, you know, you really want to have it in writing so you can come back and potentially have to use a litigator to ensure that you're going to have that credit put in.
And when you say credit, What do you mean by that?
It's the credit language at the end credits, the rolling at the end, all the names, exactly what you did, and it is
Key grip.
It's a key grip,
Right.
that there because everyone looks at IMDb and looks at your resume as the way of whether or not you're going to get your next job. So if you don't have that credit in the end credits or the main title credits, as we say, then you're not going to be able to use it later on.
What are
People
the
will not
other
believe you.
pitfalls, though, Reena? Not only just credit, but what are some of the other pitfalls that people have to look for?
For below the line talent or above the line talent, being like you're an actor,
Both.
musician. Well, in music, you're looking for a lot of ways to get out. We're say a sunset provision. Managers, agents, and even record deals, they can own you in for everything that you're doing. So we say a sunset provision is really imperative to have in all of those agreements with your managers, your agents, as well as the record deals. And that means that if you ever terminate for any capacity, for any reason, with any record label or anyone, that you're able to not have to compensate them consistently for commissions that are owed to those representatives of you, especially with managers and agents that you acquire. And those are necessary to really build yourself into this industry. And being an artist in LA, period, New York, you're going to need those individuals for relationships to sell your project, to get into a record label and all of that. But then you also owe them for the consistency of your entire career, as long as you're working with that label or as long as you're working at that studio. And so sunset provisions allow you to eventually, if say I'm an agent, if I fire my agent, that I'm not going to have to pay him for the entire duration of every renewal I have with that studio. And so I'm able to walk away after a period of time.
Right.
It does protect the artist.
Right, because the artist is then handcuffed, basically.
They're handcuffed, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make the agent or the manager feel very good, because they feel like I was the only reason you have this relationship. And had it
Right.
not been for me, you would have never even gotten in. But you can't tie your artist to that forever.
We do hear stories, I've seen that in film and whatnot, where they start off with kind of a low-level manager, but he gets them the big break, and then boom, they're off to the big time
races.
with a different manager, and it's just the way it goes. And man,
I mean, the Talent Agencies Act, which is intended to protect artists, hasn't been revised since 1986. And a lot of the lawsuits that you see with the WGA suing the major agencies, CAA, WME, ICM, all of them, the whole issues that they're having all cultivates around the fact that the Talent Agencies Act really does protect artists, managers, and agents in certain ways. However, the industry no longer works in the way that it was set up for. We don't have a bifurcated system of agents and managers anymore. Managers are acquiring jobs, and so that you see these lawsuits. I mean, that's a long story. I could really go on and on about the Talent Agencies Act.
What do you mean by that, Guy? Give us the basics, because I'm sure some of our listeners are in the entertainment business or aspiring to be. So what are you talking about, the bifurcated?
Okay, so agents and managers, according to the Talent Agencies Act, which was set up in last revised in 1986, is that managers are supposed to, cultivate all your relationships and everything, but you can only procure employment through agents, and that doesn't actually happen. To be honest, most artists, there's millions of people who just flock to LA, New York, everywhere to try to become an actor, a musician, and everything.
Right.
They find a manager, and that manager is going to help try to get them employment. Right. Technically, if that manager has not got a license under the Talent Agencies Act with the labor commissioner and everything, then they're in violation of the Talent Agencies Act, and then that artist can get employment, get a record deal, get anything through that manager, but and then disavow his contract, the commission that's owed to his manager. So the manager's completely
illegal contract
because the
it was
manager
illegally
wasn't licensed.
procured.
Yeah,
Right.
And so there's a lot, and then now when you see with the WGA, say for the film side, you're looking at writers who are working with major agencies that are procuring them employment, but they're doing packaging deals. So they're saying, hey, well, we represent these musicians, we represent these artists, we represent the producers, we'll package a deal for you. And instead of taking the 10% commission from our artists, we're going to take it from the studio. But by doing so, they also oftentimes, the question becomes, is there a conflict of interest? You're looking at, are you getting more money from the studio, or are you actually representing your artist as much and negotiating the fees for each one of those individual artists to the level that you need to? Because it's, their incentive has gone down now.
Right.
I'm going to get a higher fee from the studio, and I'm not going to get that from...
So that is a conflict in a way, because I would think that a manager owes a fiduciary duty to that.
But doesn't an
talent,
agent?
right?
An agent does too, though.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about whether or not the on the other side, they're paying more money to the manager or the agent, right?
Well, their manager agent fees can range anywhere between like 10% to 25%. They're less restrictive pursuant to the Talent Agencies Act, where agents usually are about 10%ers. Managers, though, they can take up in excess of 25%. Really, the restriction isn't there. But they're not supposed to procure employment, which is very interesting.
Aren't there managers who wear both hats, though?
Yes, I mean, a manager can go and get licensed and bonded and covered and then protected under the Talent Agencies Act, if they would choose to, but most of them don't, because then they're bound by that 10%. That 25% goes down, so they really don't want to go that way.
Because the agent's limited to 10%?
There's more of a limitation on it.
I see.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
So, as Rob had indicated, I have also clients that have asked me about, hey, an entertainment lawyer, and a lot of them have been like screenwriters, and they write this, screenwriting, play, whatever, and they say, well, I'm going to submit it to so-and-so and so-and-so. How do they protect themselves?
Well, I mean, copyright registration is important. We always say that everyone should get a copyright registration. They can register with the WGA East and West Coast. And then there's always the old school way. Put it in an envelope and mail it to yourself. Take a picture of once you get receipt of it. And that way you actually know it was registered and copywritten. That's your number one protection. If you're I will be honest, if you're submitting to studios and major studios, they're not going to sign an NDA or non-disclosure agreement or an NCNDA. They might take your story and move with it. There's only so many ways. To simplify this, there's no copyright protection in an idea.
Right.
So if you provide your story to someone else, they could take it and
unless they have that non-disclosure agreement.
Unless they have the non-disclosure agreement. And a lot of times, if you just give somebody an idea, you're talking over dinner or anything, and you're sharing this great, brilliant idea you came up with for a TV show, that individual you're speaking to could talk to one other person, and they're going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to twist two things on this and create a whole other show. And then you're having to prove access and everything like that for a copyright infringement claim.
Yeah,
or an implied contract.
An implied contract, yeah.
Right.
So
uphill battle then.
Yeah.
Tough stuff. So he asked you, well, how do they protect themselves? Even if you're a newbie, entertainer or a writer or whatever, should they not consult someone like yourself early in the game?
They should always consult an attorney. That would be my best advice that I would give, is that you just seek out counsel. Let them give you some information. Let them make sure that you have the requisite copyrights, the information out there. And then before you're submitting to people, any studios, networks, even if you're going with music and you're submitting to record labels and other individuals, you really want to make sure that you're protected. And if an NDA is necessary, your attorney has the best ability to get that NDA. They're probably going to have a better likelihood than you yourself kind of going in.
The non-disclosure agreement, the
Right.
NDA.
Yeah.
But is it hard for someone who's just aspiring? They think they feel like they have talent. They've done whatever they've done for a while, but they've never really gotten the gig. Is it hard for them to afford or to get a lawyer like yourself?
It's not necessarily hard. There's a lot of attorneys that in entertainment law that do it on contingency, a lot like
Really?
agents.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
So yes.
Yeah, that's good to know.
So they do take a certain percentage. Sometimes they do require a deposit ahead of time just to cover the necessary expenses of having to do submissions and pay for mailing and everything else and that communication. But they will work on, just like a manager or agent, they will take a contingency fee on it. So.
Well, that's good to know. So that hey, I'm a fresh out of college screenwriter. I'm moving to I'm pulling up my stakes from Kansas City or wherever, and I'm moving to LA, and I really don't have a dime to my name yet, but I think I got this product, this
script or whatever.
Right.
Is that like Goodwill Hunting?
Yeah. But then I'm going to get Reena on my team.
Yeah.
And
Reena on your team.
And conquer the world.
Yeah.
So what got you into this?
Well, honestly, I did not know I wanted to do entertainment law until law school.
Okay.
My background is in science. I went to med school before
Good for you.
before I decided I wanted to do law.
So you're really smart.
Yeah.
You're like
You took the MCAT
like-
and all that stuff? Wow.
you're like okay. You're like put us to shame type smart.
Only you, Rob, not
Yeah.
me. So go ahead.
You too, trust
so
me.
I was in
No.
Oregon, and I was like, I'm really tired of the cold.
And the wet.
And the wet,
Yes.
yes. So I was in Portland, and I was like, I'm going to do something else. So on a whim, 3 days before the LSATs were available, I was like, I'm just going to take the LSATs. And I took the LSATs, and then I decided I'm going to find somewhere in San Diego to go to.
Yeah. The opposite of Portland.
Yeah, anywhere where it was sunny.
More
most of
sun,
the time,
yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I ended up doing. And
All right.
and then I fell in love with entertainment law. Well, I thought I was going to do patent law, to be honest.
Well, with your science
With my
background.
science background.
Yeah.
And then Professor Green was my professor's name, who was in entertainment, and he had worked in music for years. And he got me into entertainment, and I
Sweet.
ended up just falling in love with it. And here
So-
I am today.
Without naming names, any juicy celebrity stories?
Well, name a name if you feel okay.
Well, I don't know if she can.
Yeah.
I really cannot name names, but
Okay.
I can say that there are some wonderful movies that just we have been a part of and worked on recently. I know Millennium Media is coming out with Tesla here pretty soon. We just premiered at Sundance, and so that was
About the inventor, not the car.
Nikola Tesla, yeah.
Yeah.
Starring Ethan Hawke, and that's coming out here
Oh
pretty
yeah.
soon.
That's is that about the conflict between Tesla and Edison in terms of DC and AC and all that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's filmed like the era is what, the early 1900s? Yeah.
It's a beautifully done film and so
Wow.
artistic and wonderful music. You're gonna love it if you see it. The Misfits starring Pierce Brosnan is coming out here very soon as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, Pierce
Is that
Brosnan,
a
Nick
remake
Cannon,
of the
Jamie
Clark
Chan.
Gable?
No, it is not.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a completely original story. It feels very much like Ocean's 11 a little bit.
Is it a
but-
comedic also?
It's got a lot of comedy, and that's wonderful. And like I said, it is Jamie Chung, Hermione Corfield, Nick Cannon, and Pierce Brosnan, obviously,
Yeah.
the number one star,
Nice.
and Remy Jaber. It was set in Abu Dhabi and Dubai area. It's just so beautiful.
And that's where it was filmed?
That's where it was
Fantastic.
filmed. The cars and the scenery. It's just gorgeous. It's such a wonderful place to film.
Wow. So you've had some involvement with the transactional aspects of those films and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
And it seems like that's pretty exciting.
Oh, it is very exciting.
Yeah.
We do investor agreements, and we do try to we do full production legal services on all of these films as well too. So anyone from indie films to studio films, we're there to assist.
Oh, that's great.
But it's tedious work to review all these agreements, especially the fine print. You just what do you just close yourself off in your office and say, nobody talk to me?
Well, yes. Well, I mean, when you're working with the studios, it's pretty consistent with their agreements. They're, I would like to say, stock after a while. So you're used to reading the fine print and you know exactly what you need to edit.
For a newbie or someone who's not famous or whatnot, they're not going to change a word of those things, are they?
Oh, they fight you tooth and nail.
Yeah.
And even with the attorneys, I don't care how experienced you are. You've been in this year's 40 years, or been in the industry for 40 years. They're still going to fight you tooth and nail. The studios, at least.
Yeah.
When you're working with a lot of indie investors and in independent production companies, you have a better possibility that you're going to get some language changed.
Right.
But with the studios, if we're talking about a per diem, that means that you're on set for one day, but they're going to give you to just eat and just survive.
Yeah.
And they're used to giving, say, $100 a day, and you're working even with an A-list actor, you're not going to get an increase on that. It's just, you could fight tooth and nail for it. They're going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
no. So.
No bargaining
This
power.
is where we are, and that's where we're going to stay.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
We were talking about off the air about 360 agreements. What are those?
To start with, they say that there's no money in music.
Right.
Because people are no longer buying CDs. They're no longer going through the same revenue channels that existed a while back. So everybody's streaming. They're watching on social media aspects and what do you call it, YouTube. So there's no money there, and a way to compensate for that loss, the music industry has developed and really relied on 360 deals, which means that if you are able to make any kind of money in the industry, whether it's acting, whether through your merchandising, anything, as a musician especially, the artist's manager is going to be able to take money from all of those channels.
Right.
So whatever your revenue channel is. They've gone so far with 360 deals to say even if you go outside of the entertainment industry, they're still going to be able to take a percentage of that. It's any source of income that you're deriving.
How does the artist avoid that? That doesn't sound good for the artist.
It's not good for the artist. It's great for the manager or the agent.
Yeah.
But it's so for the artist, the best way to avoid that is to really make sure that before you enter into any management agreement or any agency agreement is to have it reviewed by an attorney.
Call Reena.
Yeah, call me.
So that would be your advice. I take it to aspiring musicians and actors and
Yes.
everyone in the entertainment industry is get a hold. So how can people who've been listening to the show or are in the entertainment business, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach me at my email address, which I'm happy to provide.
Sure,
Let's
do
do it.
it out. Get
Online.
it out there.
Online.
It's Reena@SehgalSailing.com.
Oh boy,
Can you spell that?
you better spell
I
that.
better spell it. It's S as in sugar, EHGALSALING.com.
And Reena is REENA. Okay.
How about a phone number?
Best number to reach me at is 818-582-2421.
818-582-2421 for Reena Sehgal. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming in. We're kind of toward the end of our show here, but it moves fast, as you can see.
Yeah.
And
Could probably have her on again and go over.
Yeah. I want to learn more about those 360 deals and how I can manage somebody and get.
I don't think you're going to do it, Rob.
Nah, not me.
It is time for the Rob Report, Rob.
Okay. Not to be confused with the magazine,
Right.
but I tell you what, we were talking about those 360 deals, and years ago I represented a young man who was on the American Idol show, and they definitely wanted every piece of anything that he could possibly do, and it almost looked like it went into perpetuity. If he was on the show, they were going to own his likeness, and we did wrestle with them it was one or few forays into that something else besides litigating. And but I think with this guy, it did boil down to, if you wanted to be on that show, you're a dime a dozen, buddy, and we're gonna get a multitude of people to replace you. So if you want to be on our show, you're gonna sign this thing, and that's the way it is.
No bargaining chip.
There was really no bargaining.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an eye-opening experience. Have you ever been able to crack the door open on something like that?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
rough.
if you're starting off in the industry, it's really difficult for you to get in.
Yeah.
You have a lot more power and pull when you're somebody who's done 50 projects and you've been around, and then you can say that, hey, I'm only going to sign this if you cut all three
this little
paragraphs.
part out there.
But when you're just starting off and it's your first or second job, even if it's your fifth one, it's very difficult for you really to have that pull.
But still call Reena.
Well,
Yes.
I was going to say, but I think they probably take you more seriously anyway if you're represented.
They do.
Yeah.
And bear in mind that agents and managers are not enough. They're focused on compensation provisions, and that's the only thing, because they make their money off of you making money.
Right.
So having an attorney is there to protect you in every other capacity, and that includes like your accounting rights. If you're getting a back-end participation or any kind of any other provisions in general, including name and likeness, you want to make sure that you're adequately represented, so you get the right language in there, because your agents and managers are really only going to be concerned about that money.
Right.
Well stated.
All right, we're going to check the Mandel message box.
Hi, this is Jacob from Encino. I was working with an artist as a manager. I facilitated his record deal. Unfortunately, the artist fired me right before he signed with this deal. Am I still entitled to my percentage?
Yeah, it's Jacob from Encino.
Right. And so obviously this pertains to what we were just talking about. And, he got this guy a deal, and the artist fires him right before he signs with the label. Does he still get his deal?
Is there a contract?
What do you think?
Yeah.
So Reena, he brings them all the way to the table with these guys, and then, but before he signs
With the record deal.
with the record company, he gets fired. What do you think?
I think that it really is contingent on the language that he entered. Well, because if he had a written agreement with the artist before, then it will come down to us looking at the language of his deal. But he should be entitled to payment.
If there was no contract, though.
If there was no contract whatsoever, then, I mean, it's going to come down to their verbal arrangement. You're going to be looking at it,
boy.
and then it's a he said, she said situation, and it can be, number one piece of advice to all new artists who are entering into the industry is always make sure you have everything in writing.
Get it in
Because
writing.
napkin deals, handshake deals, they're very difficult to prove, and they're very, difficult to enforce. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, we really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Reena.
And we have to say our goodbyes, however, until next Saturday. But thank you, Reena Sehgal, for coming in and sharing your Saturday with us. Hey, guys, if you've missed any part of this show or would like to hear our previous shows, go to YouTube, brothersonlaw.com, or you can listen to us on iTunes and Podbean.
We want to thank you for listening, and if you have a legal question or a show topic, we'd love to hear from you. Message us on Instagram or Facebook at Brothers on Law.
And if you have a legal matter that you need representation for, you can call us for a free consultation at 800-310-7113. That is 800-310-7113. And tell us you heard us on Go Country 105. As we look forward to being here next week on Saturday at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. And remember,
Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.